single pot still Irish whiskey, the Irish whiskey. Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and in this video I'm going to do a review of the Teeling single pot Irish whiskey. There's a sense in which pot still Irish whiskey is sort of the bourbon of Ireland. What do I mean by that? Well, bourbon is uniquely American of the United States. You can't make bourbon anywhere else, right? You can do a corn mash, you 51%. You can do new oak. You can make a style of whiskey that is equivalent to a bourbon, but you can't call it bourbon because it's not from the United States. You can make them anywhere in the world. Anyway, similarly, Irish single pot still can only be made in Ireland, and it has a unique style and character that typifies Ireland, even though you can find, single grain, single malts, blends, and so forth from Ireland. It's really the single pot still that is sort of the flagship, the reputation, the image of Irish whiskey. And so, I think if an Irish distillery wants to be truly Irish, among their portfolio, they should have at least one single pot still. Now, this is an absolutely fantastic company, fantastic distillery, what a fantastic core range. Really, really enjoying these whiskeys, and really glad to be getting into the single pot still. But does this Teeling single pot still, is it really perhaps the new banner for Irish whiskeys? I'm going to answer that question, but first, here are my notes. The Teeling single pot Irish whiskey is made from 50% malted barley, 50% unmalted barley. It is triple distilled and then aged in ex-virgin oak cask, ex-bourbon cask, and ex-sherry cask. It has no chill filtration, bottled at 46% alcohol by volume, and sells for $84 in my neighborhood. Alrighty, color-wise, sort of a medium straw gold, quite shiny there actually. A little darker than some other Irish whiskeys. So on the note, get a lot of classic Irish notes. Unmistakably Irish. Get the pears and the apples and cinnamon. Loads of vanilla. There is a slight buttery note, but it's not a buttery note like you might have, say, a popcorn butter or a buttery Chardonnay. But it's more like a pastry that's been made with butter, some way in which the butter has been cooked. And I don't mean burnt. I mean it's been sort of reduced. And maybe it's making a sauce for another dish. There's also a note there, with the apples and the cinnamon, like an apple pie or an apple pie compote. Slight green grassy note. All right, on the palate. Very bright, very fresh. Sort of tangy. Get the apples, there's sort of a lemon, there's a lemon lime. The cinnamon there really kicks in the mid palate. Nice vanilla touch. It's really well balanced. It's got a nice development. There's a sort of a slight wine, like a white wine character to it. And it has a nice long finish as well. The finish is still going on. What I get on the finish is a sort of apple pie compote. Texturally, it has that nice sort of, I would say, moderate, creamy mouthfeel to it. Really nice single pot still whiskey, and I think it's a nice classic style. Now, I've asked this multiple times, multiple people, what do you think is the classic, the sort of the banner waver, the flagship of Ireland in terms of whiskeys? And everyone says single pot still. then I said, okay, what single pot still would you choose to represent Ireland? Everyone says the Redbreast 12-year-old. So I really want to understand this whiskey more and qualitatively see if it can compare and match up with the Redbreast 12. So let's get to it. Now, usually in a video like this, I would be doing a head-to-head video in which I feature both bottles on the thumbnail for the video. But I thought, you know what? My focus is on Teeling for this video, but I want to at least do a little bit of a comparison with the Redbreast 12. Now, for some people, the Redbreast 12 is their favorite Irish whiskey, although some of the more expensive Bushmills, say the 21-year-old, compete fairly well in terms of being favorites. Now, price-wise, it's a little bit more expensive, but people are finding they really, really like the Bushmills 21. But talking classic, I mean, most people are talking about classic Irish whiskeys. You're talking the Redbreast 12. It has really, really made its name a name for itself, and now is ubiquitous. You can find it just about everywhere. So how do they compare? One of the first things I just noticed is the Redbreast 12 is a little darker. It's a little bit more of a copper color to it, where the Teeling has a slighter, lighter pear color to it. So just color-wise, the Teeling looks a little more like, say, like pear juice or a lighter Chardonnay. The Redbreast 12 looks a bit more like apple juice, right? Or a heavily French oak aged Chardonnay. On the nose, the Redbreast is a little bit darker. And if you go apple note versus apple note, this is more like a freshly cut apple, right? This is more like an apple that maybe it's been sitting out for a few minutes, and so it's got a little bit of color to it. This has, I would say, more of a darker cinnamon note to it. This is a little bit more like an apple pie that has been lightly baked. Maybe it's not finished cooking yet. It's a lightly baked apple pie. This is the apple pie that is completed its baking, and you can kind of get the crust. You can get that sort of that baked brown crust from an apple pie. There is, it's in a similar way. I mean, there are similarities between these two whiskeys. This is an excellent way to learn about whiskeys, is to take two different whiskeys made of the same basic style. Perhaps the casks are a little bit different. Maybe one's double distilled, maybe one's triple distilled, but you know, the pot still idea, very similar in terms of a tradition of a particular whiskey and the way it's being made. Say single malt and a single malt, peated whiskey and a peated whiskey, that sort of way. So this is an excellent way to understand single pot Irish whiskey. This is, and the only way I can really describe it is a richer whiskey. It smells richer. It smells more luxurious. Now, the Teeling smells almost fresher, livelier. It smells younger, definitely smells younger. All right, on the nose and on the palate. Wow. One more. Wow. Everything I'm getting on the nose, definitely confirmed on the palate. So let me score these, and these will tell you who the winner is. I think this is a really, really good whiskey. It's well made, it's well balanced, has a nice finish, it has a nice development. But this is probably going to come down maybe a little bit more to preferences than actually the craftsmanship of the whiskeys. I think this is a really, really good whiskey. I'm going to give it a solid 90 points. It has enough development and complexity to get me to that 90-point range. But the Redbreast 12 And it stands out even more when comparing it to another whiskey. It's a richer whiskey. It has a little bit texturally, maybe a little bit slightly silkier, a little bit more thicker, more velvety, so just texture wise. And then it has more depth of flavor and a lot more richness, And I think it's going to come down to one of the main issues is going to be age. I think that this is a non-age statement, but this is a 12-year-old. But that means it's at least 12 years old. It could have more, could have like 15-year-old. This is just a richer whiskey that you're only going to get, I think, with some age. An awesome whiskey. Score-wise, I've scored this before. You know, I'm going 92 to 95 points. This is an absolutely spectacular whiskey. What I really like, and it would really be unfair, is the cask strength. The cask strength of the Redbreast 12 is my absolute favorite. The lust style is very nice too. So I'm probably going to stick to a 92 points for this. I'm going to stick to 90 points for this. Still, this is still an absolutely fantastic whiskey. Definitely worth buying if you can find it. And to really sort of understand the entire profile of Teeling Distillery. Alrighty, that's it for this video. If you subscribe to this channel, I want to thank you very much. If you have not yet subscribed, but you like watching my videos, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when I go live. And if you are one of my Patreons, you join my little group, I want to thank you very much. All right, until next time, cheers.